Welcome back to the channel. My name is Shelby, aka 88 Fox. Today we're going to continue working on the 1974 Ford Courier TDI swap. So last I left you with, we had done a couple things trying to get this thing ready to get fired. Did some wiring, some electronics, a little bit of oil routing, etc. Did some frame notching and some other cool things. So today what I want to do is try to get the starting system set up. So we're not going to get it started per se, but we're going to at least get it all set up so that when I'm ready to get it started, we can just go for it. So this has an aftermarket wiring harness, so a fast Ford Performance or whatever they are wiring harness in it. So it doesn't come with any of the starting system accessories except for your alternator, pigtail. I don't know exactly what all that does, but that's it. So we have to completely set up this from scratch. So the first thing that I want to get started on is going ahead and getting the alternator set up. So if you look, I'll go ahead and turn on the light. If you look back here, I got a stud right here. This is going to go directly to battery power, which we're going to have routed into the truck back there in the behind the driver's seat. So I'll have a split there and then be able to go to battery, and so that's going to be how we're gonna charge this thing. But I also need to run a ground. The original wiring harness, I guess it had all that integrated into it, I don't know, but I'm going to go ahead and use one of these mounting bolts, probably this bottom one, and then run it straight to ground on the frame. I haven't decided yet if I want to put a stud here or somewhere to ground it, or what I want to do yet. So we'll see. But that's going to be pretty much that for the alternator. So running power and ground and calling that a day. Starter side, similar. So I'll have to run a ground because I can't utilize the frame or I can't utilize this as a ground and engine chassis because this is billet aluminum. So I will probably just run a ground directly from this bolt. I might squeeze under and see if I can access that bottom bolt and run it there. And I'm probably going to go ahead and run it to this because this looks like this is the factory ground stud that was in the truck. So we'll just go ahead and utilize that. And then same thing, I'll have to run power to my splitter, I guess. I don't know what you call it. Whatever, power distribution panel. We'll call it that. And then I ordered the pigtail for this. This is just going to be a single pigtail. This is going to be your, again, I don't know the exact terminology, but that's going to be your solenoid exciter, right? So the idea is that you put the key in the ignition, which has a constant, well, it has a constant 12 volt to it. And then when you turn it, that's going to turn the accessories on. And then when you go to crank it, what that does is that's going to have another, that's going to actually go to the fuse box, and that's going to activate the wire that goes to that solenoid so that your ground and your power activate, and it pushes your whatever, your starter gear in, and then spins the the flywheel to start your motor up. So that's what we're going to get started with, and then we'll work on actually setting up the ignition and that kind of stuff. I haven't actually looked at the original ignition switch in this, but I'm probably going to end up swapping it out for just like a basic GM ignition switch, something real simple. I think you can get like 3-wire setups, which would be really all you need. So that's what we're going to do. So I will come back to you once I start getting all this stuff mounted. I'm going to go ahead and measure out and cut my my wiring, and then we'll check it out to see it get mounted. All right. Okay, we are back to our regularly scheduled programming. Went ahead and took the Courier off the lift. There's not a lot I need to do underneath it, and if I do, I'm just gonna get on the creeper and do it. But back to wiring stuff. So I need to get my map sensor and my N75 plugged in and routed. So I need to start kind of working on plumbing the intercooler setup and all that good stuff. And so one of the things I need to do is figure out the permanent location for this radiator first. Once I get that in, then I'll be able to better kind of assess the plumbing scenario for the intercooler. So first I got to get the fan on it, get it mounted, and go from there. And then I got the intercooler underneath there. So the intercooler is going to sit up front. I don't know exactly where yet, but we'll figure that out. I was doing some like mock kind of guesstimates, and I don't see any way that I'm going to be able to do it without punching out this fender well. So we're going to do that as well. But the first thing I want to do is talk about this box. So this box right here, it was just a box that I got when I got the Beetle motor, or originally that this motor came out of, because the guy that got it, or the guy that I got it from, he was going to do a TDI swap on his Suzuki Samurai, so he had all kinds of like little miscellaneous parts and stuff. But this box, I just opened it up, and it's awesome. So it's got, first off, it had this EGR, or this this EGR block off plate, which is great because now I don't have to fabricate one. It also came with what they call a race pipe. So essentially the race pipe goes on here, and then you can do all the neat little things you want from there. You can put a vacuum line. It's got a vacuum line right there for whatever, I don't know yet, etc. The problem is this race pipe does not fit this intake. Still not super clear what this intake came off of, but it was the one that they were going to use in the TDI swap. It was pretty, so I went ahead and used it, but it's not going to fit that. However, it does fit the original intake, so we're going to go that route. Now the problem is, let me turn the light on. That thing is just bound up with soot and gunk. So I'm gonna have to clean this out before I actually put it back on there. But that's the first thing we're gonna do, is go ahead and swap this intake out, and then put the race pipe on so that we can kind of have that ready to go. Then we'll go to the fan and radiator setup, and then kind of keep chugging away after that. I at least want to get the inlet to the intake, so I guess that'd be the outlet from the intercooler. I at least want to get that plumbed up, but I'll probably try to do both and see at least somewhere where it's going to fall. That way I can figure out where I want to weld my map sensor bung to, and then start going about it that route. So intake, radiator, intercooler plumbing. and intercooler mounting. So that's where we're at. Stay tuned. All right, so got the intake cleaned up, got the quote-unquote race pipe put on. So that part is done. And then I spent some time with my plasma cutter and flap discs to try to figure out how I was going to be able to get this radiator in here. It's wedged just a little bit in right now, but what I think I'm going to do is, for permanent securing of this radiator, I'm probably going to aluminum weld a tab right here, and then on the other side as well. I can't really put a brace down on the bottom that's going to be permanent because this slides up now, so the radiator has to go up so from the bottom of the truck up, instead of going in like a normal radiator would where you'd sit it down. So I have to figure out how I'm going to brace it at the top and then somehow brace it at the bottom. But right now that's what is almost the permanent, or no, that's going to be the permanent location of it. It just might be off by a millimeter or two. But that's not going to affect us for the next part, which is going to be routing the intercooler piping. Excuse me. So I'm going to mock the intercooler up to where I want it to be, and then I'm going to start kind of just scribbling on the vehicle where I think that some piping should go, and then I'm going to just start using some bins that I got that are prefabbed to kind of guide me onto where I'm going to need to cut. So my thought process is that I'm going to come with a 90 straight out here, and then it's going to go down somewhere in this vicinity, and then come back under here and into the actual intercooler itself. I got a one-sided intercooler, so the inlet and the outlet are on the same side. From where I think that it's probably going to mount instead is it's probably going to just want to go straight through here, which will be fine. I have plenty of room because it's only 2.5-inch intercooler piping, so I can do that. I'll just have to figure it out, but I'd really like to come down here and through the bottom, but I don't know that that's necessarily going to be feasible. So we're gonna mock up where this intercooler is going to sit, and then I'm going to go ahead and start putting some pieces together. Okay, so there's where the intercooler is going to sit. It's a little off center, just because I've got it kind of whatever here, but if you actually drop it down just a little bit, that's actually how it's going to sit. And then what I did is I just put these two 90-degree elbows on here, and then I'm lined them up with kind of rough drawed with my hand or with my pin, and then I took a 3-inch hole saw and sawed through. So I didn't know exactly where it was going to land, but it looked like it was going to be a little close to where I wanted it. So yeah, it came out pretty nice. So the good thing is with these silicone hoses, I got it just a little bit of play, so if I want to go down or up or whatever I want to do a little bit, I can. But this is where it comes through for the upper intercooler piping, which that's going to go straight to the intake, and then the lower one is back here. So I'm going to have to cut another hole. I'm going to have to do a 90 and cut another hole and come up through here in order for it to be able to feed through here and then into the turbo inlet itself. So the good thing is my eBay kit already comes with some 90s in it, and this is one. This is one of them. So this is the same kind of eBay intercooler brand that I bought for my Fox body, so I know they'll hold plenty of boost. This thing's not going to be making a lot of racket. Well, it's going to be making a lot of racket, but it's not going to be making a shit ton of boost. So I don't think that we'll have any problems with it. But what I'll do is I'll cut these pieces. I got some other, let's see. Yeah, so I've got some of these too that came with it. Some of these little mini 90s as well. So I might actually start trying to use those instead. And for this one, we'll just mount it. We'll figure out where I want to mount it through here, and then we'll cut a hole through it, and then be able to do another 90, probably just one clamp is all it'll take, what I imagine, and then, or one silicone coupler, and then we'll probably be able to use another one of these. If we can't use that to get exactly where I want, I can definitely use this one and make it whatever length I need it to be. So it really wouldn't matter either way. But that one is going to be pretty easy. Also, you know, I'll roll the ends and stuff as well. This one, I think, will be just as easy. So we'll use another one of these little mini ones. And then we'll see what we got to do to get it to connect there. We might do another 90-degree bend, and then we might just have to cut a small chunk of actual straight tubing, which I've got right here. Oh, well, somewhere. I've got some straight tubing in here somewhere. I haven't actually taken all this out yet. And then go into there. The problem is that intake inlet, I think, is either a 2-inch or a 1.5. I don't think it's 1.5 because that's 1.5. So, well, it might be 1.5. So I'm gonna have to get an adapter of some sorts, that, or maybe even just get another race tube. Whatever. It's not too big of a deal, but kind of annoying. What I really want to do is I'll get the outer diameter of this, and then I will see if I can find a whatever to 2.5-inch 90-degree silicone coupler, and then that'll just be that, which will be really nice. And then of course the straight pipe down to here, and then cut in right there with a 90. So this one might actually kind of do like an S shape backwards. So instead of just coming straight up and then through, it might have to come like this and then loop back around, but either way it'll be perfectly fine. So the idea was really to, you know, not have a lot of piping in the way, because there's quite a bit of coolant routing that I got to do, upper and lower intake, or upper and lower radiator hoses, etc. So that's one of the reasons that I did the single side entry and exit intercooler. So yeah, it'll look pretty clean when it's done, I think. But that's kind of the next step, is going to start building all that out. I am going to have to order something for this, so I need to measure this outer diameter and see if I can find a 90. If I can't, then what I can do, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. We'll figure it out. I'll see if I can get a silicone coupler though, just to make it easy. But yeah, that's going to be it as far as intercooler piping goes. So we're going to kind of carry on that direction, keep doing that. That way I can figure out, because I still got to get this wired up. So going to keep moseying on that direction, but until I can get the piece ordered that I'm going to need to do this upper intercooler piping, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to knock the bottom out, but I'm going to go ahead and get started on actually hooking up the ignition and all that. And then I'm also going to start working on getting this fuel tank out and getting the new fuel cell, which is sitting right over there, in. So I'll come back with a couple more updates as I get them. Okay, I got the radiator mounted. Took some fabrication, but I got these mounts here at the bottom now, and the radiator is secure. So what I ended up having to do is I drilled a hole into the frame, and then I installed some riv nuts, and then I built this bracket out of 1/4 inch steel, and I've got it on both sides. So now I'll be able to, it's not fully in there, but it mounts up nicely. So now I'll be able to remove these in case I ever need to take this radiator out, which I'll have to do here in a little bit anyways, because I'm going to go ahead and get started on the intercooler. So the idea of the intercooler is I'm going to weld some tabs right here, and then weld right in here with this aluminum channel, and then it's going to bolt directly to these flanges on the radiator. So once I get that welded up, I'll be able to mount it and figure out where I want to put the holes, and then I'll drill some holes and then I'll bolt it together, and then that will be the intercooler and radiator mounted. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on that, and then while I'm doing that, I'm going to let my battery charge on this camera because it is about to die. So when you come back, hopefully there will be an intercooler installed. And the intercooler is installed. So welded some tabs. Yeah, they're just tacked on right here, but in the back side they're welded fully. Mounted it in the radiator using some machine screws, and it is clean, man. I think it looks awesome. So now my boots are on. So now what I'm going to start doing is working on the actual intercooler piping. I think that the bottom side, which is going to go to the turbo, is going to be pretty simple. I'm going to just punch a hole right through here, and well, I got to do some alignment, but figure out how to punch a hole through there. And then once I punch that hole through, just going to come straight up, and then, oh, well, maybe I should put the camera on it. It's going to go straight and then right into there. So that'll be simple enough. Top side, I'm going to have to figure out how I want to cut this out. I think I'm just going to kind of keep working it out, and then until I can get a bend in there. Once I get that bend in there, I'll be able to come up. I did get the adapter for this one, but this actual race tube is too small. So this is a 50 mil. The best I could find was a 57 mil, which is like 2 inches. 2 inches. So I got a 2 inch to 2.5 inch curve. So I should be able. So I ordered. Okay, let me backtrack. I went ahead and ordered another one of these, and it is a 57 millimeter, whereas this one is a 50 millimeter. So therefore, I was able to find a bend when my other one comes in, when the brace pipe and the bend come in. It'll just be able to go straight down like this. so that hopefully I can just kind of straight attach it. So that's the plan. Hopefully won't have too much to do. I don't think I'll have to do any welding, any more aluminum welding to get pieces to fit. I think I'll just be able to do an S here and an S at the bottom, and that'll be all as she wrote for intercooler piping. And then I think what I'm going to end up doing is actually attach the bung for the map sensor that I've got sitting somewhere directly to the actual race pipe, but we'll see. It might end up going on the straight pipe right here. That's going to happen. So again, we'll see what happens. I want to get everything fabbed up first and then see exactly where I want to put that map sensor. Okay friends, so we ran into a couple hiccups. First thing was the intercooler boots fit through the original holes, but then I couldn't get a clamp on them. So that was problem number one. So I had to cut out the hole a little bit bigger and get it to where I could get both tubes in there. And then I started routing my plumbing, and for some reason I routed it to where the inlet for the turbo goes right here. And that's supposed to be where like your air filter goes. This is where the inlet needs to be. So I jostled around with a couple ideas, and I'm just gonna get rid of this turbo setup because we've already got enough issues with room over here. I'm probably gonna end up jostling that wastegate with engine vibration. We got an issue where the exhaust is going to have to come out and route some crazy direction. I'm doing a hood, small hood stack, so that's not as big of an issue, but it's not feng shui. It's not the way I want it to be. So I went ahead and ordered a 8-valve gas exhaust, turbo exhaust manifold, which has a T25 flange on it, and it comes out to like right here. Okay, and then I went ahead and ordered a whole set HE221W, which will help it sit right here, and then it also has like a little 90-degree to where I can route or plumb my actual intercooler to it. So that's the route we're going to go because I have all this open real estate right here, and it allows me to be able to work on anything I need to down here without the turbo being in the way or potentially hitting something, etc. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is pivot a little bit. So I'm not going to hook up that map sensor. I'm actually going to have to get a different map sensor at some point in time in order to be able to properly tune the new turbo. But yeah, so it is the same style turbo, as far as I think they call these the VNT turbos. So this would be like a VNT 15, which means that the wastegate is hooked up to the turbo and uses vacuum pressure, so it still uses the N75. I almost opted to get rid of it and go for a traditional turbo, but decided not to go that way. I want to stick with the VNT style. Hopefully my oil cooler line and everything will still be fine. If anything, maybe I'll have to actually shorten it because it'll sit up a little bit higher, but hopefully the threads and everything are good. I also went ahead and just opted for their I can't remember where I got it from, but I opted for their oil feed return line. So hopefully that's just kind of a plug and play operation, but if not, we can always make it. That's not a problem. But anyways, I'm going to pivot now and I'm going to work on the starting system. So as you can see, I got the starter power wire in, and I got this pigtail, which is for the actual exciter, I guess is what I'm going to call it. But that'll come from yeah, whatever, the starter. And then I took the alternator out and I had to cut just a little bit of the plastic away so I could put this larger terminal on there for the alternator. I've got it actually just kind of slung out on the ground for now, but I'm going to go ahead and start doing my routing. I'm gonna route it back through here in this hole right here, the same way that it is on the starter side, but I do need to put like a rubber gasket or something around it before I route it all in, so that'll be done. And then once I get those two main powers hooked up, I've already got the power for the ECU hooked up here. I'm going to start actually working on the starting system itself, so we'll see how all that goes. I'm probably going to have to do some Googling, some other things, but until my new turbo setup gets in, I won't be able to continue working on the intake plumbing, so map sensor is going to have to wait. So we'll go ahead and get started on the inside work here and see what we come up with. Okay, so what I've done so far, just so we're tracking along here, I've got the starter battery cable in, and then I've got the exciter for the coil in as well. I just got it temporarily hooked up right now. I'll actually be soldering that once I get my ignition switch and get everything hunky-dory. And then over here I've got the alternator in, and I also, where'd it go? Where'd my little plug go? Oh, here it is. I've also got my single wire exciter, I guess, I don't know what you call it, for the alternator right there. I'll reroute it later. And so I got just a junk battery that I had that actually still holds a charge, and I'm essentially using some jumper cables as my temporary power and ground setup goes. So I've got the power for the alternator, the ECU, the starter all hooked up on this little distribution block, and then I've got that jumper cable going from one portion of the distribution block to the battery, so that's a direct connection. And then I have the other side of the jumper cable hooked directly to the battery, straight to the ground. Okay, so that leads into the harness, or the fuse block. So the fuse block, you have a battery feed, which is your primary battery feed, and then you have your ignition switch battery plus. So the way that is supposed to work is your ignition switch battery plus goes to the ignition switch, obviously, and then it goes to the fuse block, which would be right there. So I just bypassed it so I could see it, just double check to make sure my starter circuit was working, which leads me to go in directly from the fuse block to the exciter switch. So I have this, and it's hot. That's 12 volts DC. And then essentially what it does is when you turn the key and you actually put it in the start position, it'll engage the coil to engage the starter. So I know that circuit's fine, but my starter is a little hung up. I think it's because I didn't actually tighten the starter down. If you can see, it jiggles a little bit, so that's on me. So I have to pop the starter back out and make sure everything's all squared away there, but no big deal. We know that works. We know that that's how that's going to be set up. So this actual wire will be ran to, well, not this particular wire, but this circuit will be ran directly to the ignition switch. I haven't pulled the old ignition switch out to see if I can use that, but I also don't have the key. So what I'm just thinking about doing is buying kind of a universal style ignition switch that has all the things, and then we'll mount it in there and we'll utilize that as our ignition switch. So that's the plan. I'm just going to continue wiring here. I'm going to go ahead and start setting up the battery box. So the battery box is going to be actually on the outside of the truck. So we're going to mount it right in this area. My buddy Justin, he's done the exact same thing with his. So we're just gonna copy his style. I know it works, so that's what we're gonna go with. So we'll mount the battery. We'll get a true power and ground ran, and then we'll start actually doing some real wiring. Okay, got my battery in. Got my battery box in. It's gonna sit just below the actual mounting hole for the bed, and it should tuck right in to where I don't have to do any modification on the actual bed itself, just sit under it. So I've got to figure out where I want to do a frame ground, so that goes directly to the frame, and then I'm gonna go ahead and do my power incoming through here to the terminal block right there. I thought I had terminals, but apparently I don't, so I'm gonna wait for those to come in. In the meanwhile, I think I'm just gonna kind of wait a little bit before I start doing anything else on the interior. I'm going to go ahead and get started on removing the old turbo and well, I guess the turbo and turbo manifold, and then this is what it's getting replaced with. So this is a Holset HE221, so pretty cool. T25 connector or flange, whatever you want to call it, and it's the same kind of VNT style turbo that I already have. Got a bunch of little accessories for it. So I've got a, well, where is it? I've got a forward facing inlet. So that's gonna go and bolt right here. That way I can just run my intake or my exhaust. Wait, no. Yeah, my exhaust intercooler directly to that. So that's cool. And then a couple of other things I got is a relocation plate for the actual wastegate itself. So the way that this is going to work, here's my manifold. It's going to sit like this, and the turbo is going to come out. So the turbo is actually going to be sitting right in here. And I'm going to have to clock the turbo itself because it's going to be kind of sitting like this. So this is going to need to be clocked, but the wastegate flange is bolted right there. So that piece will bolt underneath there, and it'll take place of that actual portion for the wastegate. So I am waiting for a backing plate for the exhaust. That's coming in here tomorrow, supposedly. But yeah, so turbo stuff is ready to go on. But what I want to do is get that bolted up and then continue working on the intercooler piping. Oh, and I also got the appropriate 90 degree that I need for the intake, so we'll get that done as well. I want to get that done and then wrap this up for now. So I've been working on this for the past couple weeks. Every like fourth day we've been busy with our other business, so Goal is to get this wrapped up and then really start knocking out the electrical stuff. So that's where we're at. Next time you see this, it'll look a little bit different. Okay, so as you can see, I got my new exhaust manifold in, but I do not have my turbo in. What happened is I went to go clock the turbo, which you can see I have torn apart over here. And the problem is, this being your turbine, this is your oil feed inlet, this is your outlet. Okay, makes sense? Notice that little hole right there. It lines up with this little pin right here. Now, the problem is, let me carry this wastegate and everything with me. With the way this bolts to it, like so, I will unfortunately not be able to line up the oil feed and oil return from top to bottom. So Holset specifically states that you can have no more than a 30-degree angle, so no more than about right there. The way it sits, it's literally a 90. So I had a couple options that I thought about. One of them being just cut that off, bolting it back up, and going and sending it. That way that I could align it with, you know, kind of like so, and would be good to go. The problem is I've got warranty on this thing. I don't necessarily want to just do that, because in the event that this fails, I would like to return it because it cost a lot of money. So my other option is to bring it up flush, which would require a 90-degree elbow on this. Now I don't have any of these T2 flanges, so this T2 flange, that's T25 turbo. The flange type is the same. And then I got on the Googles, and two T2 flanges was going to cost me right at 30 bucks. I got on eBay and looked up, just Googled T2 flange 90 degree, and they had one, and it was 38 bucks. So I went ahead and just opted to go ahead and get the 38 buck pre-made 90 degree flange. That way I can do what I need to do, mount this back up, and then be able to clock my actual cold side the appropriate way that I want to do it, and go about it where I won't have any like warranty type issues with the actual turbo itself. So that's what I'm gonna do, but that kind of puts a damper on things. So the first thing, obviously I need to wait for the parts to come in, so I can't get it done right now. I will go ahead and bolt everything back together and kind of eyeball where I want to put where I want to clock the cold side to. But it's going to make my turbo stick up probably about right here, which is not a bad thing. Obviously the intake is super tall already, so we're gonna be seeing the turbo hanging out right in this general vicinity, and yeah, go from there. But what does suck about it is obviously I do have to wait and so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go ahead and continue working on some electrical stuff and wait for all those parts to come in so I can finish that. So this is gonna be the last part of this video. I want to just get the content out there so that we can you know, get some videos going, because I haven't posted any videos in quite some time. So yeah, that's gonna be it. We'll keep working on this, see where we get. This is that point in building a vehicle that just kind of nickel and dime you to death, right? It's, if you could buy all the expensive stuff and everything would bolt up right, everything would work right, everything would be awesome, that would be great. Unfortunately, building a car is not like that, and I can tell you that from experience. I built a couple of them. It's the $20, $30, $40, $50, $5 bolts. Like, all those things are what really starts adding up. So we're probably, I don't know, with everything I've bought and the money that I've made back, we're probably about 4 or 5 grand into the truck already, and we ain't even running. So not too bad, obviously, but not great either. It's a budget build, so it is what it is. Maybe I can get some money back on a little turbo setup and some other things. We'll see what happens. But either way, if you like what I'm doing, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, favorite, do all those wonderful things. If you don't like what I'm doing, I'd still appreciate comments, you know, whatever else. Talk shit to me, that's fine. Tell me I don't know what I'm doing and I should probably go find a different hobby. I'm not, but it's fine if you say that. All right, that's it. Take it easy.